Zev Yaroslavsky, former county supervisor, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks, Josh.
What are you seeing in your neighborhood in the Fairfax area? Are people, for the most part, complying with the stay-at-home order?
Yeah, they're complying quite well. It's an amazing phenomenon to be able to walk or jog down the middle of Beverly Boulevard at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday evening and not see a single car.
Not a single car in sight, right?
This is Carmageddon on steroids. Of course, the stakes are a little higher. There's been pretty much total compliance. And what's interesting is there's a new protocol among pedestrians. You see a pedestrian coming your way, one or the other of you will move to the other side of the street or into to the outside the 6-foot zone. It's taken some getting used to, and of course, the impact that it's having on people economically is. I think self-evident, and we see.
Yeah, let me ask you a couple things about that. First of all, I mean, in your 40 years in city and county government, you've never seen anything like this, right?
You haven't seen anything like this in the 200 and some odd year history of the country. There's never been anything quite like this. The notion that we're heading into a recession is ridiculous. We're heading into a depression, at least the optics of it. And when people, I mean, the whole economy has been shut down. It's all necessary, and hopefully it will come back once this thing is over, whenever that is, and whatever being over means. I think there's going to be a lot of getting used to. The economy shut down very quickly. It's not going to come back that quickly. It's not, as some people have said, a V. One side of the V is quite vertical. The other side is going to be quite gradual. For example, if I tell you that the all clear is going to be on June 1st, are you going to be the first one to go to a rock concert on June 2nd and hang out with 15,000 people?
Or to your beloved Hollywood Bowl? Yeah, I think this isn't quite the year for that.
So I think it's going to be it's uncharted territory. It's an adventure for everybody. For some people, for a lot of people, it's an existential, economically existential experience and adventure. And so we're just have to roll with the punches and play it one day at a time. And
how do you evaluate the job that Mayor Garcetti and the Board of Supervisors are doing? And is there anything differently you would do if you were still in elected office right now?
I think the Board of Supervisors has done an excellent job, and I think the mayor has too. And I think Catherine Barger, who is the chairwoman of the Board of Supervisors right now, who's been around a long time. She was the chief of staff to one of my colleagues, Mike Antonovich. She's, as I told her, I said I would have loved the opportunity to spend 20 years working with you. She's the adult in this community, in the political community. There are a number of other adults, but I think she has been so cool and helped steer the county and the region in the right way. She's not getting a whole lot of publicity attention, but that's not her aim. But I think she's done well. I think Barbara Ferrer, who's the Department of Public Health director, I've gotten to know her ever since my wife came down with West Nile. She reached out to me right away, and I think she's extraordinarily smart and talented, and it takes a lot of guts to make some of the recommendations that she and the governor's people and the governor have made. Think about it for a second. And I do, as a former public official, how would I have come to the decision to shut down the economy? That's a huge deal. And Newsom did it, 2 weeks before pretty much everybody else did it. New York didn't do it quite as soon as California did it, and as Los Angeles City and County did. So it takes a lot of courage, and there's crisis management is an art. It's not a science. You have to bring people along with you. It'd be a horrible thing if you implemented a new policy and couldn't execute it because the public wasn't behind you. So you have to walk this fine line of educating people as to why you're doing this. I think Tony Fauci in Washington has been, the Lucy Jones of this issue.
Good reference there. Yeah.
No, I mean, there are people like that. I remember being in Israel during the Scud missile attacks in 1991. The Israelis had a sergeant or a colonel, I forgot what his rank was, who every time there was an air raid siren that Scud missiles were coming in from Iraq, he'd come on TV and settle everybody down. And Fauci has kind of settled everybody down while
Right. As the
educating.
neutral scientist, you mean, with no politics, who just looks
Yeah,
at.
a scientist with a heart, a scientist who knows how to talk in language that is not scientific, because he's talking to you and me, and try to understand the peaks and valleys, and the humps and the bumps, and all of that stuff. I mean, I think on the whole, the public sector has responded well. I think the public sector has been horrible in terms of preparedness, and that's largely at the federal level and to some extent at the state level. The question is, how much do you prepare for a worst case scenario that you can't even imagine? I don't think anybody could have imagined that we would be in this kind of a situation.
Right. Okay, two more questions for you.
Yeah.
One is, there's still some campaigns afloat. For example, Jackie Lacey had an unexpected runoff now in November. Same with David Rue. So if you're a candidate trying to wage a campaign when everybody's concerned about coronavirus, how do you handle that as a political candidate?
Well, I think your question answers itself. You don't be political. I think that going out and asking people for votes at a time when people are holed up in their homes and don't have an income is not going to land well with voters. So the best thing from a humanitarian, from a human being's point of view, and the best political strategy is behave like you're an elected official, not like you're a candidate for office. And I think certainly I know in the case of David Rue, because he's got a city council race, and there are others who have policy positions they're striving for. Jackie is, of course, the chief prosecutor, so she's in a kind of a different realm. But I think David is definitely talking to his constituents in terms of what they can do, the do's and don'ts, why we're doing what we're doing. I think the best thing elected officials can do is stand down and let the scientists and the doctors, carry the load. That's the way I always operated. I'm not going to pretend to be a seismologist in the middle of a 6.7 earthquake. Nobody would believe me, even if I was a seismologist, and I'm not. So defer to the people who know what they're doing, something that I wish the president would learn more of. And I think he's starting to figure that out now, that he's got some good people standing next to him. He ought to defer to them and let the facts speak for themselves. There's an awful lot at stake right now, and we need to be all hands on deck.
Last question. What advice do you have for Los Angelinos and really all Californians and all Americans to get through this right now?
Well, we're all in this together, and you can look around the world and see the countries that didn't move quickly and didn't do what we did. We are fortunate that we weren't the first, so we could see the mistakes that were made in Italy and even in Israel, and certainly in China at the beginning, and so they made the decision that the one way to combat this and to combat the surge that would overwhelm our medical care delivery system is to make these incredible communal sacrifices. And so the best thing we can all do is follow the leader and do what we're being asked to do, and stay home, stay safe, stay away from people. This is an introvert's dream. But
well, I told you offline, Zev, that I've got an opportunity to do all kinds of Zoom interviews now because people are home and they're willing to talk, and in some cases people really appreciate the contact with other humans right now, at least virtually.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of things. Our family MO is on Friday nights to have a Sabbath dinner at my son's house. We can't do that now, so we had a virtual dinner, and we tied in my daughter and her family up north, and we're going to do the same for Passover. We're going to have a virtual Seder. Yeah. And actually, other than not being able to hug your grandkids, it's not bad. It takes some getting used to. I'm teaching, as you know, at UCLA, and had my first class yesterday online. It went very well. I was quite relieved. Talk about the stress. I had more stress over teaching a class on Zoom than I did over the virus, but but the students were great. So this is a temporary situation. How temporary, we don't know yet. But the one thing each and every one of us can do is is isolate ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's good for us and it's good for everybody else.
You got it. All right. Wise words, Zev Yaroslavsky. Thank you.
You're welcome.